exactly. Um, okay. I think we go into the big meaty section of how we would continue the Reeves Batman trilogy.
Of which you wrote an entire novel on what you wanted
Yeah,
to
I've
do.
got a
Whereas
full on. I've got a
I've
full on. What's it called? Sales
I've
pitch
written
here.
my brief notes. I will wing everything in between, which is how I
Do you
do
want to go
these
first
things.
then?
You know what? Sure. Um, okay, so we will say spoilers. This just at the moment, just in case we touch on things that happened in the first Batman. I'll just put that out there. But going off how the first one finished and how we got the tease of Joker, I mentioned it last week when we were discussing the film, how I wasn't sure if they would go straight into Joker with the second one. I kind of wanted to play on that as my idea, which is more for the second film. It would be more focused on kind of Pattinson as Batman, like developing more as a character and using like Alfred and being more Bruce Wayne, and maybe through that journey he's in the other Batman villains, because we know that Joker that we saw in the end of the film that was teased is kind of like pre-Joker. So, but we've seen that Arkham is a thing, and clearly is where he's sending most of these the usual villains that we expect to get sent to Arkham. So I'm wondering if the second film more focuses on like some of these side villains that we've maybe not seen ever or for a long time, like Mr. Freeze, Poison Ivy, maybe some of these more interesting kind of like side villains that maybe we get a few of them to help sell this like character development of the Batman. And then I'm thinking that like builds into the third film, which is where the Joker becomes like the Joker and becomes the main villain. And kind of playing on like the way I see it is for the third film, it would be like the Joker was making friends with the Riddler. So I see him throughout the second film is making friends with all these other villains, and it's some like big group breakout of Arkham, or there's some, or maybe like the Joker gets out and there's a whole thing there, and it ends with maybe like a group, like Joker breaking out all of his friends from Arkham and kind of re-unleashing all these villains on Gotham. But I think it builds more that way, and we only get the Joker in the third film. And I think the Penguin is going to show up. The way I see it is I'd have the Penguin showing up. Similar role, kind of like playing both sides a bit. I think that was really fun to see. Maybe like in the second one, he leans more to the villainous side. And maybe in the third one, I don't know, the Joker's pulling away his power, so he doesn't like that. So he leans more towards being the good guy, so to speak, or playing the good guy side. Yeah, and whether we see any Bat Family characters come in, I don't know. There was one thing I played with the thought of in the first one we see that the mayor's kid's like an orphan now. Whether they somehow try and play that into being a Robin, or whether they bring it, there's like more play on orphans and stuff, and that's where we maybe get an introduction of a Robin. That's kind of where I saw my trilogy going, is more side villains for middle one, building up to Joker being the main villain, or like some big group villain Arkham breakout in the third one. But yeah, that's kind of
Awesome.
where my notes were. Very like just main points, main ideas, kind of what I think would be cool to see.
Okay, yeah, I'm one step short of doing test screenings for my films.
I thought so.
Um, so what we'll do is we'll do a little bit of discussion about my second film before I do my third film. Otherwise, it's
Okay.
going to be like 10 minutes of me monologuing. Um, so the second film in my trilogy would be called The Batman Duality.
Okay.
Um, I'm thinking set it 3 to 5 years after the first film. so that so that we can believe they've like rebuilt Gotham and sorted out the flooding and everything. Bruce has adopted Dick. He has been training him for a while, and he's considering allowing him to join Bruce on patrols. He thinks he's nearly ready to become Robin. After the events of the first film, Bruce has realised the good he can do as Bruce Wayne, and he's become a lot more public, helping to fund the rebuilding of Gotham. And he's been very vocally supportive of the newest district attorney, Harvey Dent, in prosecuting those who committed crimes during Gotham's darkest hours.
Okay, yeah.
And the first third of the film is very much about Harvey prosecuting the Penguin for the mob control he had over the city during the rebuild. And one day after leaving court, Harvey is attacked with acid and rushed to hospital.
A classic.
We see the fear and the corruption of Gotham rear its ugly head again when, out of what's happened with Harvey, the Penguin's allowed to walk free, despite everyone knowing he's directly involved in what happened to Harvey. This drives Harvey over the edge. Having worked so hard for so many months, dealing with these scumbags every day and trying to do everything the right way, he finally snaps following seeing the Penguin walk free after ruining Harvey's life. And he decides he's seeking revenge out on the Penguin, and he wants his head. So what this creates Batman having to protect the city from this war between Harvey and the Penguin, while also trying to not let Harvey kill the Penguin. And Bruce still believes that Harvey is the future of this city, and he wants to get Harvey back over to the good side. He wants him. He wants to stop him before he goes so far that he's unsavable. So the main themes for this film, in my opinion, is kind of balancing these alter egos, which we see between what Bruce is trying to do as Bruce versus what Bruce is trying to do as Batman. We also see it through Bruce trying to be a father and a teacher to Dick. And of course, the obvious light and dark sides of Harvey, Two-Face, etc., where he kind of has this split personality of wanting to do the right thing, but also of having had enough of all of the evil. And then at the very end of the film, like we had our moment at the end of the first film with the Penguin, we see Dick suiting up as Robin for the very first time.
Okay. I like that.
Questions, thoughts?
I like the idea of bringing Harvey back. I completely kind of forgot about Harvey Dent and how you could tie that into the.
I think he really fits well.
Yeah, I think the idea of using him as like during the rebuild stage of Gotham makes total sense, and kind of a part that I think like my similar idea really with like I was more focused on having all the side villains. It's kind of that I think we both have a similar idea of like the period of Gotham being rebuilt, where it's like cleaning up the streets sort of idea.
Yeah.
Which I think is key to building Batman's character.
Yes, definitely.
And I do like the idea of like bringing in Dick Grayson and having like the Robin coming in the second film. I think that's cool.
And I think the big thing is we don't want to get rid of the themes of Batman being a detective. And I think Harvey's intelligence will really lend us to still being able to have that kind of what's he going to do next feel to the film.
Yeah. I wonder if... Well, I suppose like you could do all sorts with like a way of you could drop like so many Easter eggs as to who Harvey Dent's already put away and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Because yeah, we're just doing a trilogy here, but I mean, if these films are this successful and Patterson wants to keep doing them, this could run for a long, long time.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, if they decided one trilogy wasn't enough, having Harvey there, having cleaned up the streets in between 1 and 2, allows you to have a lot of people able to break out or be released for 3, 4, 5, 6, and onwards.
I like the idea of. I think definitely like I'm on board with your idea about bringing in Robin in the second film because it is something we haven't had for a long time, and I think it helps with that detective side as well because it means he can be doing more. Like it helps give more reason to being in multiple places at once and finding out information from multiple places. Plus, it allows him to lean into that Bruce role more.
Yep. Okay, my third film,
Mm-hmm.
The Batman Parliament.
Oh.
Now it's set again a few years after the second film. I'm liking these kind of medium length gaps of time
Mm-hmm.
that allow us to do changes in between to what's going on with the characters without having to show all of it.
Yeah, I agree.
Jim Gordon is now the commissioner of the GCPD.
No.
We can either have that happen off screen or one of the first scenes of the film is him becoming the commissioner. Bruce Wayne has once again stepped up his devotion as a Gothamite to helping the city be even better. And he is publicly backing and endorsing a mayoral candidate.
Mm-hmm.
And Dick, at this point, has taken over most of the standard patrolling of Gotham, with Bruce just joining to assist when it's necessary, or when he has the time to do so, or when there's something big going down.
Yeah.
So Robin is almost the sole night-to-night protector of Gotham at this point.
Okay.
Bruce, along with Alfred, has also launched Batman Incorporated, as a way to hopefully end his crime-fighting days by trying to change the world in a different way. So in the comics, Batman Incorporated is like a charitable charitable organization rather, owned by Bruce Wayne, whose entire the way they tried to sell it to Gotham was Batman is trying to make this city better, but what can we do to help him essentially?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, you would argue that someone should be smart enough to put this together.
Yep.
But the whole idea is just it's named Batman Incorporated because Batman's the reason it started. And I thought this could be quite a cool thing to have shown in a film. Batman Incorporated now exists, and it's Bruce trying to stop having to fight crime by trying to combat it a different way because he's older and wiser now.
Yep.
This is all probably like the first half an hour or so we're seeing this. We're seeing Bruce just tired and wanting to see the end of this and not sure how to do it. Bruce is relaxing in his study, going over some paperwork for Batman Incorporated or the mayoral candidate or Wayne Enterprises, or maybe just paperwork for all three just strewn all over the desk. And someone attacks him from behind. He tries to kill Bruce. The assassin clearly underestimates Bruce a little bit at first, not knowing that Bruce is Batman. And quite a fight ensues of obviously like books and stuff in the study getting thrown about. And then just before the assassin's actually about to kill him, he just says the court sends its regards. At which point, Alfred kicks open the door with a shotgun and shoots the intruder.
Okay.
Dick is then seen coming back into the Batcave from a patrol, not knowing what's happened, to find Bruce and Alfred doing an autopsy. of a body that's very strange. It seems to both be the body of a 21-year-old in peak physical condition, but it has the scars and that of someone who's lived dozens of lifetimes.
Okay.
And it's wearing quite a strange suit that's got like this kind of feathers coming from the head and goggles that make it look like it's got like an owl's eyes. And then Bruce explains that as a child, as most child people his age did as a child, they heard stories about this secret order that had been ruling over Gotham from the shadows for centuries.
Mm-hmm.
But Bruce could never find any evidence that actually existed. He always believed they were just a fairy tale, that the Court of Owls couldn't possibly exist because Batman would know.
Yeah.
And we get this kind of ability to see Bruce struggling to believe that these people have actually been here this whole time and he's never been able to find them and prove them. And almost through his own arrogance, believing he's so good that he would have found them. So if he hasn't found them, they can't exist. Kind of creates this debate within him of should I keep looking into this or is someone just trying to scare me off?
Mm-hmm.
Is someone who doesn't want my candidate to win pretending to be the court, hoping that I'll run away scared? And what we get to see through the film is these attempts on Bruce and the mayoral candidates' lives and Alfred's life as like the leader of Batman Incorporated makes Bruce finally come to terms with the idea that the court does exist. This isn't
Mm-hmm.
someone just trying to scare them. This is the court in action because they don't like what Bruce Wayne is doing to Gotham.
Mm-hmm.
So we get to almost like it's almost bordering on a horror film because you feel like Bruce and the Batman are powerless for a lot of the film because they don't know what's going on. And not in a
Yeah.
way of like they were with the Riddler, just one step behind, but completely caught off guard.
Yeah.
You have Bruce trying to like almost build a retirement plan, and then all of a sudden this secret order appears, and actually they've let him operate for the last 10 years in Gotham at this point almost
Mm-hmm.
without doing anything. And now he's going, oh my god, they've been there this whole time. Have I just been doing what they want me to do?
Yeah, certainly a little
So
self-doubt.
a lot of the main themes of this are going to be centered around trying to launch a new beginning, but the past refusing to stay in the past.
Right.
And maybe we can play with the idea that the Waynes were at one point a part of the court, or they were a founding family of the court or something. And maybe we can even push for the idea that the court had the Waynes executed.
Mm-hmm.
That the court's been back in the Penguin and Don Falcone as the crime bosses of Gotham for all these years.
Interesting.
So yeah, that is my Batman trilogy.
Not
And it's
even.
called Batman Parliament because a group of houses call a parliament.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. I was fully expecting you to bring up the Joker or something for the third film like I did.
You know what it is?
It's been done.
I like the Joker being there. I want Robert Pattinson to do more than 3 films.
Mm.
So I'd
If they save
while I
him.
don't while I'm not calling this a Batman prediction because I do not see this happening in this way.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I'd like to see the first 3 films. Because then you almost get like the Spider-Man No Way Home-esque moment of realizing he's actually now the Batman because he's kind of completed this period of time where he's learned different things.
Mm-hmm. I get
And
you.
like this third film teaches him he can't be so arrogant as to think he knows everything about what's going on in Gotham. And that also gives us 10 years. We've not seen his first 2 years, 3 to 5 years, and then another 2 or 3 years. So we've not seen like over half of his career. He could have fought the Joker a
And
couple of times in there.
Yeah.
that we just haven't seen. And then that allows us to have a big moment with the fourth film of it feeling like it's coming to a tipping point between him and the Joker.
Yeah.
Because I definitely do not want to see Batman and the Joker like feeling each other out on screen again.
Yeah.
I want it to feel like they're like old enemies fighting again, not enemies fighting for the first time.
Yeah, I get you with that. And I mean, we were already kind of given the indication that they've already met.
Yeah.
So I like your
Yeah.
idea though of taking this like a more direction of him being more Bruce than Batman.
There's a real sweet spot you've got to hit in there.
Yeah, because obviously otherwise people just go, well, this is a Bruce film, not a Batman film, sort of thing.
But
So,
I think if we're
well,
I think if we're ever going to have an actor who can pull off a really believable Bruce Wayne trying to do good and realizing it doesn't have to be as Batman, I think Robert Pattinson is the actor who can make that work the best.
yeah, I think
Um,
there's definitely like, oh, it felt after the first film like there's definitely that character development opportunity there of building, because he clearly showed he doesn't care to be Bruce, so then being able to show him build up and understand the value of Bruce and being like, okay, look, I can do so much more in different ways as Bruce and not need to be Batman. And like going with your idea of like bringing in Robin early in the second film, like helps we get to see that transition of him kind of like handing the reins over as well. Which
but
clearly
the
seems
thing with that is
interesting.
if after say them three films that I've put together, they decided Robert still wanted to keep going, and they've set it up now so that Bruce realizes he just can't give up being Batman. What you can have then is you can have the actor playing Robin says, right
Yeah.
then, if you're not going to give up and leave it to me, I'm leaving. And he gets to become Nightwing and go over to Bloodhaven.
Mm-hmm.
And then that gives you the opportunity for Batman to bring in Jason Todd. And you could make the fourth or fifth Batman film a Death in the Family.
Yeah. Yeah, if you were to go like your route, you could definitely shift to bringing in Jason Todd, and then you've got the whole thing with him and the Joker. And
Especially if they keep like, say they release a new Batman film every 3 years, but they always put in like a 4 year time hop. What that does is it always gives Robert Pattinson another year younger than Bruce Wayne, which allows them to keep him as Bruce Wayne for longer.
mm,
And that means by the time they get to that, Dick would be 17, 18. Another 4 year time hop, you could have it so that Jason's been Robin for a year and it wouldn't be outrageous.
yeah,
And that gives you enough time to kind of play with these things. But yeah, that was I really enjoyed thinking about how I would kind of inspired with how they've done this Batman film, how I'd like to see them go. Like I said to you, I think before we start recording, the only things I've written down there that I am not happy with having reread are the names, but I couldn't think of anything better than that. But that's why I don't make films.
I know. I think your idea is super interesting. I definitely went more with the idea of okay, it's Detective Batman. Let's just chuck a bunch of villains we haven't seen or not seen for a while. So then we get to see him like figuring out that stuff.
To be fair, a Batman running like a gauntlet of villains for a live action film could also be super good if they did it right.
Yeah, I think if they did like a good mix of like 3 or 4 villains for the second film, and he's having to balance like, and it's all going on at the same time, like that kind of trying to figure out who's doing what's linked. Like, oh, I'm chasing this person and trying to deal with this, and then this other person's kicking up a thing across town, and like that point of being like, how am I supposed to manage all this? Then kind of does lead well, I think, into the idea of maybe bringing in a Robin in the end of the second film, of being like, look, I need more help. And there's this like he already knew Dick Grayson and like was sort of training me a little bit throughout the second film or something. And there's like kind of that realization of I can't chase all these villains on my own. Like it just gets sometimes it's just too much. Because obviously he doesn't want Gotham to go into absolute chaos.
Yeah. Do you know what I think the difference of our stories is? The Batman comics I've read that you haven't. And that's not a slight at all. I just think the Court of Owls are super interesting based on like the New 52 comics I have where he deals with them and watching Gotham where like we see them. Whereas you're going at it purely of a case of watching Batman fight all of his villains and like be overwhelmed, almost like a long Halloween type story.
Yeah, it probably comes
Is
from me
also
liking
super interesting.
the more gritty points that Batman reaches in the comics.
But yeah, that's what we thought.
It's going to be interesting to see what they do because
definitely, there's no way we don't get a full trilogy here.
Oh yeah, the success of this Batman and how well received it's been, like, I'm pretty sure they now have probably signed deals for a definite second and third film.
Here's the thing: even though the film may or may not break $1 billion, it's still going to be a success financially. That, along with the critical acclaim, which DC and Warner Bros. Care more about than Marvel do, means they will at least make a second.
Yeah, and the fact that DC's past films have been
shaky.
They're like, now this is one that's been pretty like well received across the board. They're gonna go, oh well, let's run with this because we know it. Like, why would we stray away from this? We found something that the fans like. Let's stick with it. So
anyway, let us know which trilogy you would rather see out of the two, or feel free to just go both your trilogies. Sounds crap. Let Matt Reeves do the writing. Yeah. Again, that's completely valid. That's why. Let us know what you'd like to see as your trilogy. That could be quite cool. Let us know what you think.